Wow, welcome to this evening's Creative Corner, which is being kindly hosted by the Docks, which is a kind of co-working space. They've got rooms, they're basically up for anything, which is I think why they've allowed us here this evening. Just two things. First of all, my name's Isabel. I'm going to be hosting this evening, taking you through what I think will be a really fun evening. Two things you might want to know. The toilet. If you go outside, there's a sign that says reception. Hang a left there and you will find the toilets. There's also a bar, which I think some of you have already found, which is great. Just to give me a flavour of who's in the room tonight. Who's been to a Creative Corner before? Welcome, welcome. Who's never been to a Creative Corner? Well, why not? It's really good to see you all here this evening. Some of you who have been before will realise the format has changed a little bit. This evening we've got 3 amazing speakers for you as opposed to 1. Previously, we've had some incredible speakers, some creative directors, filmmakers. Last month we had Jay Pond-Jones and Sam Delaney, who were talking about how to have a digital hit. Think Cat in a Wheelie Bin and KSI, the YouTube phenomena that is. I think this evening is really interesting. It's called Tearing Up the Rules in Design, Code and Music. And I was thinking about that on my way this evening. I was thinking about an article I'd read in The Economist that was talking about insurgent companies, okay? Startups to you and me. So I'm guessing that's a fair representation of some of the folks here this evening. And it was talking about how public companies were now looking at startups for new ways of legal frameworks, getting funding and that kind of thing. I'm talking about companies like Uber and Airbnb. Who here hasn't looked at that advert for Airbnb of the Palace in Venice and thought, I'm having some of that for £10 a night? Who in the room here is a designer? Film, illustrators, musicians? Creative directors? No, excellent. So just pure practitioners here this evening. That's fantastic. As I said, we've got 3 speakers here this evening. So we're going to hear from each of them, and then we're going to have like a question time, a creative question time at the end. And we're going to do it with this, okay? The Catchbox. So thanks to our friends at Catchbox. It's a foam cube, all right, with a microphone in it, and it just gets chucked around. Don't be alarmed if it arrives on your lap and you feel that you can't possibly ask a question. My advice would be to chuck it to the next person. Hopefully they would have thought of something. What else do I have to say to you? I think that's about it. I think we're going to move on to our first speaker this evening. Our first speaker is the founder and creative director of And. They obviously developed Creative Corner, the space here that we're all in this evening. And Simon Brown is going to be talking about running an agency. The good, the bad and the ugly. Can I have a big round of applause, please, for Simon Brown.
Hello. Hello. Yeah. That's quite loud. So, thank you very much for that as well. Just take a sip of water. So, this whole idea about... Thank you. This whole bit about the importance of tearing up the rules is somewhat kind of pretentious, really, as a subject matter, as it assumes, really, that the heart of creativity and creative success is anarchy, and that your process needs to be anarchic. It leaves us with the presumption that tearing up the rules is the driving force for great work. In our experience, this is just not true. It merely reaffirms that creative excellence thrives only when you're in that flux of anxiety, that moment when you think, I need to make something amazing, I need to do something now, and you never do. It also assumes that you do this. You brutally tear it all up and you throw it, hang on, that's my notes. but you don't. If you do tear up the rules, you should do it with consideration. So, from a design agency point of view, let's take a look at a crude visualization of what a creative brief is. And this is our creative brief. So, as a generalization, creative projects are composed of a clear set of deliverables. From our experience, it's very rare that we get an open-ended brief, something that we can do anything with. Typically, briefs are outlined with clear specifics. They comprise a format, they have a dimension, and they have things that you actually have to do. So, this bit, how many times have you heard the thing saying, "We turned the brief on its head"? And you think, what does that mean? It's almost become like some sort of rule or a way to produce content and projects that are really great. We've actually come to find as an agency that it's a fruitless task turning on its head. So, one thing that we've stuck by is we adamantly stick to the brief, and we stick to those specifications, and we stick to those rules. However, there's one thing. And during a project, you come across this idea, this thing where you just think, wow, this is wonderful, or this is really, really good. And instead of us taking that idea and shoehorning it into our brief, we thoroughly explore that possibility. And we produce what can only be described as a pitch document. But that pitch document doesn't get pitched to the client straight away. We carefully pick our moments and we present that to the client. But the most important bit is we like to do that face to face with them. So that's how we work and what we do when we tear up the rules. But how many times has people in the room seen this when they've looked at a great piece of design and they've thought, how envious? Well, I'm going to be brutally honest about this, that it takes a serious amount of work, and the more you put in, the more rewards you're going to have. So, from ourselves, we're going to keep this relatively simple into 3 key ideas, which we want to share with you. And they're ideas that we use ourselves. So, good ideas are just not enough. And what we mean by that is, it's how and when you know to sell them. The next point, solve a challenge by breaking the rules. So what you should do is you should purposely pick the rule that you want to break, something that's going to make a real difference for your project. And the next bit is kind of like us here, really. Regularly invite yourself to unexpected places. It encourages you to see a challenge that you have from a completely different perspective. So I'm going to take you through some of the work that we've actually produced. So this is Cilichili magazine. It's for Vodafone in the Czech Republic. And we were creative directors for them. And we had a very strict brief, which was to produce a cover and a whole series of inside pages. So this issue coincided with an app that they produced, which was a WC app, toilet app, and it geolocated all the toilets in the Czech Republic, in Prague, which is pretty good because there's a lot of beer there. So you use this app, you found the toilets, and then you pinned on the toilets, and then you scribbled and doodled on the app like you do in a toilet if you're about 15. So we came up with this, we had lots of fun doing this. And we actually drew this QR code. It actually does work, and it's a hand-drawn QR code. And then we covered the whole of the inside. But we had one core idea. We just thought, we really want a toilet. And we want a toilet to do something in. So we actually spent about 2 weeks out of the 4 weeks finding a toilet. One was a public toilet. They didn't let us do that. But we drew all of these, We made a full documentation. We costed out the project. We did our due diligence on it. We built a strategy. And the most amazing thing was, if you photographed the QR codes on the front of these toilets, you got 20% off your mobile phone contract that month. Within the first 2 days, someone stole the door off one of the toilets. So this approach has kind of helped us establish a benchmark to produce issues with Cilichili and also a relationship. So as you can see, this is actually some of the clients getting involved. Everyone seems to want to draw on these toilets. So I won't go all the way through. But this approach kind of led us onto more stuff. And it just meant that the projects grew, and they all grew on this idea. And it meant that we could do stuff like this. For the sex issue, we could do a neon beaver on the front cover. We grew a Facebook page to 33,000 people. It's now grown much more than that. This is a poster with all of their names on it. And we sent it out, and it was for the blood issue. And people actually complained when their names weren't on it. So we had to build in real time that this poster was updated and send it to all the new people that liked them on Facebook, which was kind of a lot of work, but a lot of fun as well. And then, yes, we did shave a rug for the interiors issue as well, which was again a lot of fun, and it became a competition and it built an audience. This is just a magazine, bear in mind. So the front cover for this actually looked like this. And we also looked at augmented reality. So if you take your phone, and Glenn showed me a beautiful example earlier that covers coming to life in a digital world. So what I'll say to you is that those 3 steps, so good ideas are just not enough. How and when you sell them is when it really matters. And for most of these projects, explaining to someone you want to shave a rug at the beginning of the project is not going to get anywhere. So you really need to work out how you're going to cost for it, how you're going to bill for it, and how you're going to do it. It is a bit fraught, but you're going to get some fun stuff to do. So this is another project as well. We were commissioned to produce a website, which was a webzine, so the cross between a magazine and being online. And in terms of digital, we started, this is more about our kind of thinking and the way that we think about digital and the way that we think about print publications. So I'm going to run through the way that we thought about this. In terms of digital, let's assume that content is this first singular line, and that's where it all really starts from. So if you take that single piece of line, and then you take lots and lots of pieces of content, that's how your website kind of builds up. And that's the way that it kind of starts to extend. Now, with magazines, what they do, or with digital, what they do is they divide up their content into categories. So let's assume that our categories are news, fashion, lifestyle. And this is how you can kind of look at content quite quickly. So the big problem with digital is that very, very soon these content blocks become overly populated. And you never read that article. That one that's in the list right down here that was first published, you never ever get to. So the good thing that digital does is they take tags, and the tags subdivide the content so you can read it horizontally and vertically. So if that's digital, then what's the beautiful thing about a magazine? And the beautiful thing about a magazine is that you can remember content. You remember that Vogue cover with Naomi Campbell on the front of it, and you remember pieces of content inside it. And we were thinking about how kind of that framework, and we could take that beautiful aspect of a magazine and say, actually, a magazine houses loads and loads of content. It houses them exactly the same as digital, and it houses them in categories, or what is presumably known as sections. So then we started to say to ourselves, okay, if we can do that, then the beautiful thing about a magazine is all of them are different. You can have the whole fashion issue. You can have a bite-sized, chunky issue. And that's the beauty about magazines, is they can be different every time, but contain the same pieces of content. So we took these two ideas, and we produced a webzine. It's called urbanista.org. And we organised the client's content into a structured rationale. Sounds a bit highfalutin. But basically, we embraced the love of digital and the love of print. And every time an issue is published, the homepage drops out. So this is the front homepage. The next issue that comes out, those URLs go into an archive that you can quickly get to. When you read the sections, you can take that beautiful thing from digital, which is the tags, and you can read it across all of the different publications. So back to the points again. Solve a challenge by breaking the rules. We wanted to get the design, we wanted to get it to look right, we wanted to feel like a magazine. But the big rule that we broke was the organisation of content. One rule. So purposely pick the rule that you want to break, something that's going to make a real difference. So this is where I get to the bit where I actually show you that we've learnt a real lot. That clients don't always pick the best ideas. All the work that I've shown looks all wonderful, but the question is, why don't they pick those good ideas? So I think it's down to that thing that good ideas are just not enough. It comes down to how you sell them, the due diligence that you do on the ideas, whether the idea is appropriate for your client. So what I'm going to show you is all these following projects were turned down. So this is what we designed on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side is what actually went ahead. And what we've learnt from these projects is we sent these by email to the clients. And we didn't have a face-to-face discussion. And we didn't do that much thinking about them. So this is a book cover. We wanted it to be a poster about revolution, like the old posters. This is what the client picked. And this is what they got us to do. This was a whole set of icons meant to be really friendly for a recruitment website to join them, helping you with your portfolio. They also work in design. It's got kind of a D&AD style pencil, a bit of love inside the illustrations, and these go small on a smartphone. This is what was produced. This was the front cover, The Future of Whiteness, Tearing America Apart. And we thought it was just shredding it, really. And this is what we produced. We sometimes use stock images, and so we thought that this was quite good. Jobs for girls. This is what they got us to produce, thinking that women had loads of choices in life, although it looks like she's got funny hair. We produced this. It's quite a lot of fun, this. Painting your fingers. I mean, yeah. Anyway, it's about designing your life. And we thought it could be great fun because you use your phone, you swipe over your phone. This is what we produced. So, you know, learn when to sell your projects and how to sell your projects, because it's going to help you. It's helped us. We've learned by our mistakes. But I've got this as a new project, and this is about inviting yourselves to unexpected places. And I'm going to do just that. Which is, we had an idea 6 years ago that we could do one-word blogging, because no one has time to write those massive blogs, do they? I mean, I don't, anyway. So take the idea of one-word blogging, and you can post one word. Then, if we can get funding for this, we can do much, much more. You can take one word, and one word today is, for myself, I'm excited. I'm happy to be here. So that's an emotion. I can then tell all of my friends around that emotion. If it was earlier in the year, one of the words I would have liked to have used was Cecil. I was terribly sorry about that line, and I'd love to see more. Imagine a web page populated with all the words about Cecil. I don't even need to write it. Sounds great, eh? So that's our thing. And we called it Lazy Blog. We did it for a whole bunch of people. So to get funding from everyone and to drive everything, we have started a Twitter page this morning about Lazy Blog. And this is the Twitter page, so if you can help us, this would be amazing. So the idea is this. The idea is that we post one word. We drive as many people and get as many people to follow this Twitter account, and we can find funding for it. So I'm going to start this off, and I actually started this at 5 o'clock this morning. So the first word is cock-a-doodle-doo. Now I'm going to go into the audience to find out other words from some people. Hello.
Hi. Challenged.
Challenged.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant word.
Thank you.
What's your name?
Gabriela.
Gabriella. We're going to come and find you and then get your name and get your Twitter details if you've got Twitter. And then we're going to put all the words together and we're going to take them up. So I'm going to run around the room and find some other people. Hello.
Hi.
What's your name?
Tommaso.
Hello, Tommaso.
Nice to meet
Do you have a word?
Yeah. Screen.
Screen. Yeah. Brilliant. I'm thinking of films here.
Personality.
Personality. Telling me to get one? Thank you. Personality. Hi.
Turbulence.
Turbulence. Okay, so we've got a whole bunch of words there. And I think that thing of this could really work, like turbulence. I'm thinking of that page that's built, and it's full of all of these kind of aeroplanes or people being sick bags. A friend of mine's got sick bags and she collects sick bags. Beautiful designs, by the way, on sick bags if you ever want to kind of collect them. So help us, really help us. But I think the thing is that really regularly invite yourself to unexpected places. It encourages you to think about things really differently. Think about projects differently, to see it from someone else's perspective. So I'm going to go through these final core values, really, just to reiterate them. So good ideas are just not good enough, or not enough. How and when you sell them really matters. So make sure you do due diligence, find out how you're going to produce the project, what you're going to do, what are the limitations, because you can have a great idea and then you don't have the budget for it. Solve a challenge by breaking the rules. So this is about the most important one. You have to purposely pick a rule that you're going to break for a reason, which also means that you need to understand the rules. If you're a graphic designer, messing around with hierarchy of typefaces when you're producing something that's legible is most probably not the best idea in the world. And then the last one, which we've all just done, regularly invite yourself to unexpected places. It's going to encourage you to challenge and see things from a different perspective. So from me, Simon Brown, do more, tear it up.
Well, thank you very much for that. Look, I don't know if there's some people in the doorway. Can you see and hear okay? Because okay, cool. That was brilliant. Thanks ever so much. We're going to move on now to our next speaker, Jure Cuhalev. Hopefully I've said that right. He's come all the way from Slovenia. He's actually the Director of Technology at the Open Education Consortium. He's a WordPress and code master. Can we have a big round of applause, please, for Jure?
Thank you.
Thank you. So Simon was talking about having, good and bad experiences with design. And since quite a few here are designers, you probably know the experience. Like, who here has designed the lorem ipsum page? Like, you do the design, but the client hasn't sent you the content. So you do lorem ipsum, and then you get actual content, and it doesn't look anything like your content. Know that moment? Yes. Right. So now imagine So I'm a technologist, and I really care about technology. But then you look at designers and they go like, here's some magic box, and it just worked correctly. And you go, no, no way technology works like that. But good luck, with your CSI project. And that's what happens with search, right? So WordPress is nice. It's easy for clients to go and sell WordPress to their clients, I guess. But we're not Google. And when we talk about search, it's where the problem is that it's easy to oversell. You say, well, you're going to use it on a phone, and it's just going to know what you're searching for. But we don't have the budget. So here's the problem. Here's more than a solution. And we're going to move into design in a few moments. But what I just want to understand is, the thing with Google is it's a massive company, and they design a bunch of design tricks. So they expect you to have autocomplete and type ahead and all these little tricks that it's hard to have if you're a small design agency. But there's a thing we can do. We can get ourselves a dedicated search engine that we install on our server. And I'll have more technical details on that at the end. And if we have that, and we know in advance that we have that as a technology, we can then start doing really neat design tricks and introduce new design elements. And the whole purpose here is to figure out how can we be more like the big guys with the budget of a small design project. And last year, we did a redesign for a recruitment agency. And the big purpose there was to do more with search. You have job ads, obviously you want to search through them. So looking at it the good thing with this project was that I had a chance to work with the design team early on, and what we could do is we say, okay, so you want to do crazy things with search? That's awesome, but you cannot just design anything. You have to talk to developers. So we looked at it and we said, okay, so what are the 3 things that make the search experience so good? What is Google doing? And they're pretty open about it. So it's speed. We're multitasking like crazy. But at the same time, we're using the websites from our mobile phones, right? And I don't know about how you feel about mobile internet in London, but I find it really slow. Right. So anything we can do to make the website faster means that there will going to be more people, staying and using it, and that's important because we're seeing like about half of our traffic overall coming from mobile phones and iPads and so on. The second thing is guidance. When you're looking for the job, right? Are you looking for graphic jobs? Are you looking for design jobs? Are you creative jobs? What are you typing into the site? And that's a problem because we don't have trillions of websites to search across. We have just tens of thousands of job ads. So we have to help our users know what they're searching for. And lastly, it's discovery. We, as humans, we love to daydream. We're looking for that new travel destination, bigger apartment, but it all ends up at money. So we think, well, if only I had a better job. So we come to the job site and see, well, that's a job I like. That's what I can do. But what's this? This is a job that I'm qualified for. Let's see where I can go with that. And we want to help them with that. So let's start with speed. So with speed, there are 2 elements. One is actual speed, and the other one is perceived speed. So the interface itself is fairly traditional. There's like top-level categories, and then we have sub-filters. Easy enough. So the way most of the websites do it right now, or a lot of competition, is you click something, and the website refreshes. And that's terrible. At the moment the website refreshes, you use the flow. You lose the user's flow. whoa, what's this white screen? And if at that moment the user falls into a bad patch of internet connectivity, the page will not load. What's the next thing you see them doing? Well, they're on the Instagram, because that loaded in the background. So that's one thing. And the second thing is, because of the high risk, because that is a problem, the users don't explore. They're not taking risk with our website. So what we do is, we have two things that we can do. First is, we use something called faceted search. And that's really a technical term, but what it actually means is that you see a lot of design like that, but the numbers next to the elements means that we actually tell you exact number results you get when you click. And that increases the likelihood that user will click that element, because they know they will get 5 jobs or 20 jobs or 50 jobs. It also means that we can design better interfaces, because what we say is like, stop filtering. Even if you add more filters, you're just gonna get 3 jobs. Doesn't matter. You can already see all of them on the screen. So that makes the whole experience much faster. And then we use a trick from 2005. Ajax. Who here remembers Ajax pages? Awesome. So why are we learned this trick? Hey, go ahead. Yeah. No problem. Oh, crowd here, perfect. Anyway, so back to boring technology. Ajax pages. Who is pitching their clients Ajax pages today? In the last 5 years? That's too bad. It's wonderful technology, because I promise you, on your pages you're probably loading about 1 megabyte of fonts, because we all need custom fonts. The thing is, Ajax allows us to replace only fragments of HTML content, and that's really small. And that's also really, really fast to load. So instead of doing a whole page refresh, where we have to figure out, oh, did that font suddenly change between the refresh? Because that's how browsers work. We can just say, you click something and we replace that fragment, and we don't have to do the whole rendering. We can do it on smaller devices, and so on. And it's awesome, because user clicks something and things change. Easy enough, right? So now we have the perceived speed and the user interface, and everybody's happy. The second thing is guidance. So one of the incredible things that Google did is they figured out how to do. Did that load? It did. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Right. It figured out how to do autocomplete. So you type, you're not sure what you do, and they help you. It turns out that's really hard to do if you have a traditional database, but because we don't have it, we can actually make a list of all the terms and display them, the most common one, while you type. And that helps a lot. So it's, you start typing Adobe, and we can tell you, hey, here are Adobe Illustrator jobs, or here are InDesign jobs, and so on. It also helps with another interesting thing. A lot of people can't spell. Either, yeah, so that's right, that's the thing. Either, we're not native speakers, we're typing on a mobile phone, or even worse, we're dyslexic. And you can't really fix that, and it's hard for you to make correct spelling choices. But what we can do is, we can say, hey, you typed Illustrator with a single L, or a lot of people like to type Excel with double L, things like that. And we can ask our search engine, we don't have any results, so let's just magically replace the results that there would be 0 results with the one that sounds similar or is spelled similarly. And that just works, and it feels magic, but yeah, there's no design element. It does have a consequence that because you will get results, it's less likely that the users will leave your site. So another win here. And lastly, as a society, we're really good at making up new buzzwords. And And it also means that for a limited data set of ads that we have, it's highly likely that you will search for something that no recruiter wrote into job ad. So that's why it's really good that in this case we have a specialized search site, and the recruiters know their industry well, so they can say, well, if you're working with InDesign, maybe you can write a certain terms for other competitive apps. Or for me, like a developer, I see people looking for iPhone developers, others are looking for iOS developers, and so on. So what we can do is we can make automatic synonyms. Well, not automatic, it's manual, but when somebody searches for iPhone, they will also get all the jobs with iPhone and iPad and so on. End result, as an end result, we get more results and happier job searchers. And lastly, related content. I've seen websites where people go, well, all our competition has related articles, we should have some too. And then developers look at it and say, well, that doesn't work like that. And so we would just throw them into sidebar widget somewhere below. It's there, there's a check mark on the project delivery. Nobody clicks that. It turns out that if you have a proper search engine, you can do something really incredible. You can actually make related articles that work. Because you're not doing any stupid tricks. You don't expect users that they will tag articles and then display similar articles. You actually make searches across documents, and you can compare those documents, in our case, job ads. And that has interesting consequences for design. We can make that box really big, and people will click it because the results there will be really good. It also means that we can surface jobs across the industries. So sometimes, like people in movies will still need graphic designers, but they will use different terms. It turns out that those jobs have similar qualifications than the one, for example, in print. So you have this cross-pollination where you can suddenly show people jobs in industries that they haven't considered before. And that's part of the daydreaming, right? Maybe you want to work in the movies. So these were the three things, making speed work, guidance, and discovery. So how do we do that? What's the secret technology for that? It turns out it's easy. You just download this app, and it works. Well, almost that easy. It's an open source project. It's called the Solar. It's part of the Apache Foundation. It's an app that you download to your server. Usually, in New York, probably you talk to your developer and they go, yeah, that's really awesome. They get it running, and then you have your own search engine. It has really good documentation and libraries for all the programming languages and things like plugin for WordPress, Drupal, Magento, and so on. So it's free, it's widely supported, and the best thing of all, it speaks all the weird languages. So the problem with search is English is kind of easy. You look at the plural forms and you say, well, we're just going to cut the S and it's going to work most of the time. It turns out it's more complicated, but Solar has all those rules built in, and also supports all the global languages, German, Spanish, so on. It even supports weird languages. Weird languages in a way that they're not easy to parse to computers, such as Chinese or Arabic and so on. So that's really good. And that also means that your project can grow as you bring your site global. It turns out that also means that search has to be tweaked. So in case of job site, you have to worry about that specific set of documents. If you're making an online newspaper, you have different constraints. There's a really good book by Granger. Granger, Solar in Action. Buy that book to your developer, and you'll be running in no time. It's that good. But at the end of the day, why do we do this? So this project was really fun to do, and it's about a year ago. And what I really like is that what they came back to us and said, we're seeing significant increase of session duration, and that means that users are using the site, and at least in my mind that means that we're finding all these creatives better and more exciting jobs, and that's why we're making cool sites, right? Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. That was great. Thank you, Jure. We now move on to our final speaker of this evening. I'm very excited about this. This is Patrick Doyle, former drummer of Veronica Falls. He's now going solo with a brand new record label, Amorphu. So please can I have a lovely big warm welcome for Patrick.
Hello.
We're going to do something slightly different from what we've had before. We're actually I'm going to ask Patrick a couple of questions because it seemed the best way, I think we agreed, wasn't it, Patrick, for us to kind of discuss some of your thoughts with us. Patrick, how would you define success in music?
For me personally, I guess you could say that the way I make music is quite self-satisfactory. I'm not really the type of person who's like dreaming of a number one or anything like that. I'm kind of more documenting where I am in my life at certain points, and I'm more interested in, like what Simon said, about finding yourself in unexpected situations.
Yeah.
I think it's important to kind of document them or something from that experience and put it into your music and then remember things that way. I've got a really bad memory, so need to document as much as possible.
Okay. So for you, it's about actually producing the best work that you can. It's not sort of quantifiable with, I don't know, money, record sales. It's about producing the best work that you can.
Well, the only way, I guess, it would that money would tie into it is being in a position where I'm able to make music, to document things to a standard that I'm happy with, and that doesn't necessarily mean going into like a big fancy studio. That just guess it depends where you are at that point and what kind of thing is appealing to me personally.
Yeah.
If that means recording something on my phone, then maybe that's fine, but sometimes it's good to take yourself out of your comfort zone and maybe go and record something in a different city or a different place in the world, just so you can kind of respond to things differently, and hopefully it'll kind of influence the way you make music.
Yeah, okay. Well, that kind of leads us on nicely, really, to my second question is, can you take us through your kind of creative process from kind of when you first kind of write the music to sort of the performance?
The way that I write is quite slow. I'm not very good. I don't have a very long attention span, basically. So a lot of the time, I'll be writing kind of as and when.
Yeah.
I'm more likely to be like riding my bike and then kind of stop to do something than sit in front of a computer and kind of program drums or anything like that for hours on end and try and develop that way, and kind of wait for things to kind of come to me.
Yeah.
In a way, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I've recently started writing and recording everything on my own, it's become a lot different in terms of kind of evaluating your work and seeing whether or not you've I think you can develop things too far, and sometimes you have to kind of get some perspective on what you've done, which is why another good reason to write things down and record as much as you can. And
is there like a major difference between the starting point that you know when you've first written a piece of music and say the performance? Is there are you an artist that kind of things change drastically, or is it kind of you replicate exactly what you first produce?
I think Well, it depends. I kind of make really last-minute decisions a lot of the time.
Right, okay, yeah.
And most of the time, I'm more likely to take things away towards the end of working on something than add to it. I feel like sometimes leaving things out is maybe more important than putting everything you've got into one thing and kind of clouding things up or like confusing. I think it can be quite... I mean, I guess it depends what kind of song you're writing. If you're writing like Bohemian Rhapsody or something, then you can obviously like put as many ideas as you want in there. But I also think that like something like Don't Worry Baby by the Beach Boys, where there's only a couple, like 2 or 3 ideas in the whole song, I think it can sometimes be more effective, and it kind of sticks with you a bit more.
And so that kind of brings us off nicely. Feedback, like how do you obtain feedback?
Well,
and
like,
is that important to you, I guess, also?
Yeah, I think it's probably one of the most important things you can get, really, when you're working on something, isn't it? But like I said, because I've started writing on my own and developing everything on my own, it's not as... the feedback isn't as instant.
Right.
Which is why I guess it's good to have the option of playing music live, aside from the fact that it's a good way of continuing to make music. It's also just the quickest way to get feedback, I guess. Yeah, I mean, you should definitely like seek it wherever you can, really. Like, I quite often ask my boyfriend his opinion on music, because without that, you can just lose perspective if you're working too much on your own, I guess. Yeah. And I don't know, like a lot of the time, you can learn a lot more from the things that you do wrong than the things that you might have done right. Someone said to me once that like some of the best songs are written when you try and replicate a sound or a certain style of music and you kind of get it wrong or you do it differently.
Right, yeah.
And that's kind of that's always stuck with me, just as kind of in the back of my mind, like if something's maybe not going the way you planned, it doesn't always necessarily have to be a bad thing. You can just go off in a different direction, or you can just go with it, really. Yeah. Not beat yourself up.
And record everything as we got on the slide behind us.
Yeah. Again, bad memory. No, I feel like the more you record things, that's a good way of getting feedback, I guess, is just being able to listen to things with a bit more perspective. And that's the only way you can really see where the gaps are, what needs to change. Yeah. Well, we've got, I believe, your video. Oh yeah, this is brand new.
Oh, I've got to press it in the right place.
He's the guy who makes you feel uneasy.
Wow. Patrick, thank you very, very much. I love that.
Thank you very much.
We're now going to go on to, I guess, a creative question time. So we're going to have all our guest speakers, and we're going to open the floor up to you folks with a very handy catch box. It does what it says on the tin. You may have noticed our friend Josephine Ford at the back, and you might have thought, what is she doing? She's actually... Hi there, Josephine. Hi. She's basically illustrating tonight for us, which is, I think, an incredible thing. So she's still got a bit of white space left, so hopefully we can give her something exciting to fill up her remaining bits of white space. Chaps, can I just ask you to kind of move so people can see you? Yeah, you can stand there, I guess. I just also remind you, if this does land in your lap and you don't want to ask a question, quickly throw it on to the next person. I guess, has anyone got a question, first of all? Oh, okay. Whoa, that worked.
Hi.
Brilliant, yeah.
You said at the beginning about ideas and breaking rules, and rules, let's say. Don't you think that if you break rule number 1, it's one case, one output, but if you break rule number 2, it's a different output? How do you choose?
So a lot of the time we don't always break the rules, and the rules might be that might be that we used to say to people, we were trying to describe what we did for a living. We said, oh, someone comes to us and asks for 10 business cards and we give them 100 balloons. That's just not true. So we really kind of clearly pick those rules and which ones that we're going to choose to use. And sometimes it's just, me and Matt actually produced something for a think tank, and the rule that we broke for them was to not use stock photography, but use illustration to communicate an idea, because it was much more about imagination from a think tank. So we kind of really carefully pick where we're trying to go, and breaking too many of them just for frivolous reasons is just not worth the time, to be honest.
Can I ask something else? Can I ask another question?
Yeah, go for it.
I don't know. So I'm a developer, so I'm not really sure about this creative thing. I wanted to ask about we have A/B testing in software? Is something similar in creative stuff? As in, it's one design, it's still for design.
A/B testing. Do we do it for digital?
Yeah.
So I'll be absolutely frank with you. No.
Fair enough.
And the reason being is, and I'm sure I want to ask Jure this as well. It takes a lot of budget. It takes a serious amount of budget to do it, and you need to work out all the journey paths for it. It'd be really, really beneficial. So the big newspaper that we showed you, they did obviously user testing, but they had wireframe specialists. We were designers to make things look clickable, drive navigation, and we did stuff like develop and say, take your homepage and put it on the bottom of your website, and have different ways of doing stuff. So we don't typically do it. We only get into the fact where we look at stuff, but I think Jure can answer this.
So what I found as a kind of tech lead on many projects is that clients get satisfied way too fast. They say, oh wow, we got 20% increase. Why is that number not 50 or 500? Well, they just get happy too soon. And the problem is, like, if you're a newspaper site, right, but if you're a newspaper site and you go to your boss and say, we spent X amount of money and we doubled our reach, and they go, well, that's nice, but maybe they don't make direct money. So what I've seen is most of the people that do this like rigorous A/B testings are the one that can connect it directly to money. So get a better homepage, sell more widgets, get more money to sell even more widgets. If you get, there's like this marginal return point. I'd love to do more A/B testing, and I'm sure Simon would love to, do more designs, but for some reason there's no budget.
Another question, a music one maybe? Oh, it's a pass box.
Hi.
Hi.
I was just wondering how you sort of maintain the creative momentum when you're working in isolation a lot of the time and you have to wait such long amounts of time before you see results.
Taking lots of breaks. Again, like you mentioned, Simon, about finding yourself in unexpected situations, I think that's like one of the best things you can do, because you don't know how you're going to respond to something until you're there, and I feel like that's a really good way. I feel like you don't always have to like put yourself around music or musicians to be inspired to write music. Like a lot of the time you can just get it from like having conversation with someone you haven't seen in a long time, or like I don't know, I guess everyone finds inspiration in different places, but I guess it's whatever works for you, really.
I guess what I'm asking actually is how you kind of keep that going. I'm sorry, I know I'm asking and I know the answers because we live together. But this has been over a year. This process has been over a year that you've been working towards this, and we're still working towards something actually coming out into the world. And it's one,
You just have to stay positive. Like all the time. I mean, you have to kind of force yourself to a lot of the time, I guess, but the moment you stop being positive, nothing's going to happen. So, I don't know, if you're passionate enough about it and if you want to do it enough, then you'll find that energy.
Yeah. Anyone else? Thanks, Mark. You're right, Dan.
Sorry, you should have got that on camera.
Well, it's a fun box as well.
My question's sort of linked, so what is it next? What are the biggest challenges that you find about, being kind of having to be creative? And Simon, I think this is a good one for you because it's what you do on a daily basis, it's your career, and also for a musician. I mean, what is the most difficult thing about having to be creative all the time and feeling like you have to create?
Most probably exactly that. Because someone always comes up to you and goes, I need an idea for this. And it can actually be quite tiresome, to be honest. But that's just part and parcel of what is, things take years, and we've learnt from loads of stuff. But the one thing that we have is we might not always be working on something, so we're always doing something. Creative Corner is like a great example of us pushing something. Lazy Blog is a good thing about pushing something. And if you check out online, we have crazy collections like ampersand collections, where we just photograph ampersands that are really cool. So we just keep lots and lots of stuff and records and back catalogues, and that really inspires us. And if it can't be used for one project, doesn't mean that it's not going to be used in another. So that's how we keep it up.
So logging your creativity is a good.
Yeah, I think the same. Like I keep like a sketchbook or a diary. Again, I've said this a couple of times, I guess, but like recording everything, even if that's in terms of like, I don't know, like whatever, basically, like you go to the cinema, you can keep the stub, anything goes in my scrapbook, basically, anything. And then whenever you do feel like you're missing an idea or you want to develop something and you don't know where it's going to go, you can just have a look. And yeah, as long as you kind of keep building it and keep feeding into it, then hopefully you'll always have like a bank of inspiration.
So hoarding's okay.
yeah, definitely. It's encouraged.
Yuri, how do you do that in code?
Yeah.
Where the hell do you hoard it?
Yeah.
Well, we do lots of we call it pet projects. So the thing, sometimes you see designers just doing sketches or doing sketch months or so, and doing one new sketch every day. It's the same with the code. You look, you see the example and like, wow, I'm sure I can build some small stuff with that. There's a really cool thing called Ludum Dare, which is a 48-hour game design project. So the idea is that you sign up for it, and then you have 48 hours to design, to code your game. And usually people live stream their coding. And the crazy thing is there are like hundreds of people that watch you code. Crazy. Anyway, so after 48 hours, post the project online, and you learn crazy things like how pixel art works and how to design a game and so on. Do this once a year. There you go, some creative output.
It's really good.
Another question? Dan, how can you chuck it?
Moving on with.
Can we have one thrown at the back and then we'll come back? Yeah.
Back to the front.
What should we
I got it, caught it. Thanks so much, everyone, for wonderful presentations. I've really enjoyed this evening. I have a question about unexpected places, or inviting yourself places. So I'd like to know from each of you, if you can cast your mind back to, I don't know, the last couple of years, where has been the most kind of unexpected place or interesting place or inspiring place, whether that's a conversation or a location. Just I'm interested in the kind of the detail. Other than here.
So I've got a really funny one.
Go on.
I found myself going in a car park with a really famous Dutch architect, and It was really quite inspirational because I went to a drive-through brothel on the back of Amsterdam. Yeah, it was just brilliant to see architecture used. I mean, it was really being used, and there was some great signage and everything. So that was the weirdest place that I've been to, and it was brilliant because the book that we published for him had Saddam Hussein and Kim Jong and Jesus with a SARS mask on the front cover. It sold for €5. It's now €250. So yeah, it was pretty cool. But what about you?
So for myself, I travel a lot. I love going to conferences, and obviously, you go to different city. You go a bit before that, see the city, and so on. So what I tend to do is, because I have privilege of being a coder, I can grab my laptop, work from anywhere. So I would try to find local, kind of coffee shops where there's internet and you work there. But the thing is, to find the best places, you really have to go into the vegan and vegetarian ones. It turns out anybody can try to make a burger, but in order to survive as a vegan place, you really have to get good food. So I like vegan places while traveling.
Thank you. Good answer.
Another question? I think there was one towards the back. Oh gosh. Lob it. Just lob it. Go. Whoa.
Yeah, I've got a question. How do you get find a balance between creatively what you want to achieve, and then you've also got to kind of balance that against what possibly commercially you need to get out of that, either material or product?
Yeah, Patrick.
Yeah, we're both passing.
Oh, okay. Hey, that's a good question. Sorry, Joe, can you say it again?
How do you find that balance between what creatively you want to achieve in your material and then what you need to kind of achieve commercially in it as well?
I guess for me, it's having something that's going to come across well live as like a performance. So not only a record that people want to listen to, but also something that people are going to want to go and see you perform it too. So I guess that comes down to like putting a band together that you like or you're happy with. I have just recently started putting together a band actually, and I've decided to make it as different from the record as I can, in a way, just because I feel like it should be like a separate side of the band. So I guess that also involves keeping it interesting for me.
Yeah. Okay, so this question is specific to Jure. Okay, really quick. I guess this can't be really quick, right? When you're talking about the related content in jobs, so did you have specific type of content? Was it always written? Did you ever do infographics? Did you ever do, was it visual? I mean, content can mean many different things, and I guess I just never caught what you'd use for relatable for that 62% increase.
Right, so the 62% increase was just total time on site. So people are just staying on site longer and clicking more things. For related content, it was mostly text versus text, so just finding jobs that are similar to this job. So
okay, so it would be a job to job. It wasn't like an article to a job.
Right, because how do you really match an article to a job ad?
Yeah.
If I would be, but the question maybe, that's interesting, like if you have a big site, how would you match infographics with text and so on? And if you're, Simon has some crazy ideas, but what I would do is maybe, here's a fun little weekend project for you. Take a collection of images, throw them into something called Mechanical Turk. For the ones who don't know, that you can, for a couple of dollars, you can get people on the internet doing tasks. So you say to those people, write 10 words about this image. For each image, do it 10 times, have 100 images. You can probably, the total budget for that would be maybe $50. And then do related content based on those words between images. And I'm sure you will get pretty good related content with some quirky sites. And that might be interesting.
Cool. The reason I was asking is that's actually something that I'm working on right now, and so I found that quite interesting. So, cheers.
I'm interested in inspiration from breaking the rules between kind of the three different areas that you guys come from. So is there something that, in a design perspective, you've been inspired by music or something where the rules have been broken in music or broken in code, and vice versa amongst the three of you guys, if there's anything. Inspiration either from the area itself or inspiration from a rule breaking. That would be a no.
So the rule breaking, basically, me and Jure worked together, and we worked on a number of projects. And the way that it normally, this whole idea of agile and this kind of approach that you take on these small tasks and iterations. As a designer, I caused more problems for Jure when we started out because I said, could we do this? And then I found out that we couldn't. So the real inspiration for me has been sitting down and saying to Jure, I want to build a website based on search. And then go, well, how does that impact the design? And this whole thing of related content and a search term actually means that you start thinking about design in a completely different way. It doesn't mean I want to be a coder or anyone that works for me. I don't particularly want them to learn code. It's just to be inspired about the possibilities of what you could do. So the other thing, the Cilichili website and the dropping out of home pages and changing your URLs was a discussion exactly on those white lines, and then a developer told us that it was possible and gave us so much more. Music, I just like to rock out to be honest.
Can I just comment on the coding side, and then we get to the more interactive part, I guess. So we like to play in general, right? It's fun to throw out ideas and try them out. If you don't overwork your people, and that's really important, right? I see a lot of developers, lots of agencies just burning out everybody on staff. Crazy schedule, late night calls and so on. That means that when you get to that position, people just don't care anymore. They go, well, here's the spec, here's what you asked for, go away, I have another project. If you give them enough slack, that they can actually do their craft, they will look at what designers produce and what the specs say and say, well, that's nice, but let me build this prototype and it's gonna be way better. And then you can take that and pitch a bigger and better idea. So in a way, it's allowing people to break the rules and having that slack.
For me, I guess probably someone like Morrissey, who proved that you can be in a pop group without necessarily singing in tune all the time.
Good catch. So it kind of relates to something somebody asked in the back. So something I struggle with every day as a marketer is if you already have an established brand, how do you remain innovative, forward-thinking, break the rules when you're already, and kind of think outside of the box when you're already within a box? How do you overcome those challenges of think of something completely different and new all the time when you have a set brand and something that people recognise instantly from the get-go? It's a challenge, but it's something that occurs every single day, whether you're creating a different website, a homepage, an infographic, a landing page, or an email. How do you always overcome and think of something new when you have set rules?
Skunkworks, have you heard that term?
No.
So I think that comes from aviation, and the idea is that you have this. So Google calls that 20% project or X, X thing, and so on. So the idea is you have some people, and you encourage them to experiment, and then you launch those projects, and that that helps you. You can launch something, see if you get traction, and then you can invest that, and that's enough. You don't need to kill your main brand. You're obviously not doing complete redesigns, but you can build a VR app. You can make a paper prototype of something and give it out and so on. And that's how cool projects come out.
So more mediums as opposed to design.
Actually,
channels.
well, if you ask your people around you, what do you want to build? I'm sure you have crazy ideas. Just take some of that ideas, get some budgets, and don't say to them, build it out, we'll try it, and let's learn something from that. And some of them then become their own companies and their own products.
Yeah, I just think you need space, like Jure's saying, space to kind of think about stuff. I mean, there's a story about Post-it Note that it came out of an idea from a company, and now it's the biggest selling thing that's on all our desks in all those wonderful colours. So it's just about finding that space and being able to be in that. And Patrick spoke about that earlier, just having time. And in companies, no one wants to give you time just to do frivolous stuff.
Testing, yeah.
But having a small fraction of your day where you could just do something radical, I think it's really important.
I guess, just experimenting as well, from my point of view, is whether it's experimenting with like the way that you write, the order in which you write a song, or whether it's again going into your sketchbook and trying to develop on an old idea.
Well, unless anyone's got anything else, thank you very, very much. And thank you most of all to Jure, to Patrick and Simon. Thank you. That was amazing. Thank you. Exciting update. Woo! The team at And, they've got some really, really big ambitions for Creative Corner, and it is really down to you folks here turning up every month, being part of it, asking questions, and just sort of, disrupting, what do you call it? Disruptive inspiration. So hopefully you're kind of going to get inspired, meet some people that are going to be kind of helpful and all the rest of it. But obviously they need your help to continue. So we look forward to seeing you next month. Next month, the Creative Corner is going to be on the 26th of November. It's a secret venue, so keep watching the Twitter for updates. But the speaker is going to be a chap called Marcus Lyle. I don't know if anyone here has heard of him. You will have for sure heard of some of the people that he's worked for. He's worked for the Chemical Brothers and Metallica. And does anyone remember that Adidas advert with Messi and the lights? I don't know if anyone remembers that. He's responsible for that. Incredible, I don't know how you would describe him, so artist, light person, really, really incredible. He's going to be talking about think design, create emotion, so hopefully you'll be able to join us from that. Keep looking at Twitter for the updates. Really big thank you to all of our speakers. Thank you for the docs. They are co-working spaces and they're up for anything, so I'm sure if you need a room, come and see them. Move for adding to the goodie bags. Catchbox, it's worked very, very well this evening. Shoreditch Hype for promoting, and the camera guys at Emote Media. Hopefully I've said that right. And also a big thank you to Josephine Ford, who has been busily scribbling away, as you can see there, and has produced really some fantastic illustrations of this evening. So thank you once again. For those of you that want to continue the conversation, we're going to be at the Captain Kid Pub. Is that right, Jenny? Oh, sorry, what High Street? Wapping High Street, Captain Kids. Apparently, it's the oldest pub or something, and it's quite notorious, apparently, but very pleasant.
It's where the last hanging took place in
London.
Oh,
yeah, great. So hopefully we get to see many of you there this evening.
Yeah, we'll be tearing it up.